the story of the Goose Girl. And I want to say that fairy tales are very exciting stories, and they have hidden meanings. So you can check out a book at the library if you want to and delve into some of the secret meanings of the fairy tales. They are fascinating. Well, once there was a beautiful queen. She was kind of old, and her daughter was betrothed to a prince who lived far, far away. And it came time for her to make the journey to become married to the prince. And so the queen gathered up all kinds of silver and gold and dishes and fabrics for the princess to take. And she also sent her maid-in-waiting with her to help her be delivered to the prince. And they had 2 horses, both fine horses, but the princess's was special. That horse's name was Falada, and the horse could speak. Now, right before the journey, the queen went into her bedroom, and she pricked her finger and squeezed out 3 drops of blood onto a white handkerchief. She took it and very carefully put it in her daughter's hands. It said, "Now take care of this. It will help you on your journey." So the princess put it in her bodice, mounted Falada, and off they went. Well, soon the princess was getting tired and thirsty, and she needed some refreshment from a nearby stream. And so she asked the maid-in-waiting if she would please give her some water from the stream in her golden cup. Well, the maid-in-waiting said, "If you want water, get down off that horse and lie down and drink it from the stream yourself. I don't want to be your waiting maid anymore." Well, the princess just didn't know what else to do. So she bent down and drank from that stream just like an animal. And those 3 drops of blood said, "If this your mother knew, her heart would break in 2." Well, the princess got back on the horse and on they went. Soon it was time for more refreshment. And so she asked the maid-in-waiting to give her some water. Again, the maid-in-waiting said, "No, I don't want to be your servant. You go get it yourself." Well, the princess dismounted from Falada, went down to the stream, and began to drink like a common animal. And out of her bodice came the handkerchief, and it just floated down the stream. The princess did not even notice, but the maid-in-waiting did. And so she knew she had power over the princess. So when the princess got ready to mount Falada, the maid-in-waiting said, "Falada is more suitable to me. Now you will ride my horse, and I will ride Falada." But before she got on the horse, the maid-in-waiting forced her to change her clothes and also to swear an oath that she would not tell anyone what had happened under pain of death. But Falada knew. Now on they went, and they arrived at the palace. Oh, the maid-in-waiting, the false bride, was greeted with fanfare and excitement, and she was taken into the palace. The true bride was left outside. Now the king was looking out the window, and he noticed how beautiful and delicate was the other girl left out there. And when he asked the false bride about her, the false bride said, "Oh, that's just someone I picked up on the road to be a companion to me. Work needs to be found for her, though, so she won't be idle." So the king found her work, that of a goose girl. It's the lowest menial job of the castle. Not only was she to be a goose girl, but she was even an apprentice to a goose boy. Well, so she began to tend the geese with the goose boy. Meanwhile, the maid-in-waiting asked the prince to cut off Falada's head because she was afraid Falada was going to go speak. Now, word got back to the princess about Falada's head being cut off, and she promised the butcher a gold coin if he would nail Falada's head into the gateway through which she passed every day when taking the geese to the meadow. And this he did. So the next day, when the true princess walked through the gateway with the geese, there was Falada. Ah, Falada, how sad we are. And Falada said, if this your mother knew, her heart would break in two. And on they went into the meadow. Now, when they got to the meadow, the princess would take down her hair. Oh, it was beautiful and golden and just shined in the sun. And the goose boy wanted some of those strands of hair. Well, the princess had lost her husband-to-be, her horse, all of her luggage and finery, and she was not going to lose any of her beautiful golden hair. And so she called the wind to help her. And she said, wind, wind, blow the goose boy's hat over the countryside, and let him chase it here and there until I have bound up my hair. And so the wind blew up, took that hat, and you know that goose boy ran all over those hills and vales chasing that hat. And when he got back, the goose girl had braided her hair and bound it up tightly. Now this happened 2 days in a row, and it made the goose boy mad. And so after the second day, he went to the king and he said, I'm not going to work with that goose girl anymore. She vexes me all day long. And he told her, the king, about talking to Falada and about how she makes the wind come and blow his hat. Well, now the king commanded the goose boy to go out the next day with the goose girl. And he hid in the gateway. And he heard the true princess talk to Falada. And Falada say, oh, true princess, if this your mother knew, her heart would break in two. And then the king went and hid in a thicket. And he watched as the goose girl unloosed her hair, called up the wind to take the goose boy's hat, and then she braided it and bound it. Well, when they got back in that evening, the king called the goose girl to him and asked her why she did all these things. And the goose girl said, oh, I cannot tell anyone. I can't tell any human, for I have made a vow under pain of death. And the king said, oh, my. Well, you must not carry this burden. You've got to release it some way. Go tell it to that iron stove. And then he left the room. Well, the true princess got into the iron stove and she began to unburden her heart. Oh, I have been left by everyone. The false princess has taken my place. I have lost everything. I am really the true princess. If this my mother knew, her heart would break in two. Now the king wasn't in the room, but he was listening. And when he heard her whole story, he went into the room and opened the door to the oven and took her out and put all manner of royal robes on her. And she was transformed into a beautiful creature. And then he called his son, and he said to him the whole story. And they got a plan together. And that night there was a big feast. And at the head of the table was the prince. And he had the true princess on one side and the other. And when they had eaten and drunk and were very merry, the king told a riddle to the false princess. And he said, "What do you think should be the treatment for somebody who has taken another's identity?" And then he told the whole story of what was done. Now, the false princess did not recognize the true princess. She had been transformed, and the false princess had no idea who she was. And so she said, "Oh, well, anybody that has done something like that should be put into a barrel that is studded with sharp nails. And that barrel should be drawn through the village with 2 white horses until that person is dead." Well, the king stood up and said, "You have just pronounced what is going to happen to you." And so, when that sentence was carried out, after that, the true princess married the prince, and they ruled together in peace and happiness.